Hello, Maggie.
Hi, Sean.
We got the after coffee break slot. Don't think that this is going to go easy on you. We're going to have a big, impactful 30 minutes for two reasons. One, Maggie is kick-ass. Secondly, she's got to catch a flight back to California. And thirdly, it's the Rugby World Cup at 4 o'clock. So let's make this impactful.
Let's do this quick.
Thank you, Maggie.
Can't miss rugby. You know, all these women here.
Yes, all
I'm
these
sure you
big
just want to
rugby
run out and
fans.
watch rugby.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for flying all this way. You know, it's great to see you because I've actually known you since you were like a little whippersnapper when you were
I think
17,
like 18, 19.
18, 19.
Which is terrifying because we are no longer 18 or 19.
It's terrifying. Although you still look the same.
Oh, yay. I was fishing. I was like, please say it. I really don't, but thank you. I appreciate that.
The thing is, the difference is you went on to become a Hollywood superstar and I'm stuck in Hong Kong. Which, as you know, is not doing too well. But let's talk about that next time because we're under duress here.
Yes, we are.
So why didn't you tell us, for the people who don't know you, how did you go from being a Hong Kong actress to making it to Hollywood? Notable roles being Nikita and Designated Survivor. And we'll talk a bit about this later, how to being such a prominent activist and social entrepreneur. We'll come on to that later. That's a little sweetener. But let's talk about how you made your acting jump.
I don't even know.
Okay.
I don't even know how it all really unfolds. I think everything sort of happens the way it's supposed to. I had a weird career because I was born and raised on an island in Hawaii, and then I somehow made it over to Asia. I mean, I have Asian roots. My mother's Vietnamese. But I sort of landed in Asia and then thought, well, I'll stay here a couple months and go back to school, and it never happened. And I ended up staying 7 years, and in that time I was picked up by Jackie Chan's management company. I was trained to do action. I never done it before. White people in the West think that anyone who's Asian just wakes up, brushes their teeth, and does kung fu. It's not true. We don't. We actually have to work at it. So I ended up leaving in 2005, Hong Kong. I got my first U.S. movie, and it's been really wonderful ever since. But in moments like this, when I come back for a summit like this, when I can use my sort of Western upbringing and my Asian roots and be a bridge at a time like this, I think is when it all comes full circle for me.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you know, perhaps you have a unique perspective on what has now been called the Me2 movement, given you came from Hong Kong, which is very much a male-dominated kind of industry. Very sleazy.
Very sleazy. Very sleazy.
Going to Hollywood and rising to the top. How has that changed, or how did you get through that, going to Hollywood? Did you face any difficulties or challenges, or is there some kind of perspective you can give on the Me Too movement happening now in Hollywood?
You know, it's interesting because there's different forms of abuse that happen in the workplace, right? So as women, you know, particularly in entertainment, I think people think, I don't know what they think the journey is, but the truth is when you're a woman and you're up and coming, and when you're in Asia, in particular, there are abuses that go on, and then there are also just buckets and loads of disrespect that happen as a woman. I was speaking to someone earlier about when I was coming up and I was creating my career in Hong Kong, they just looked at me as someone who had very little value as opposed to my male co-stars. And it was very cut and dry. It was like, this man is valuable and you are not valuable. And we will value him, we will prime him, he will be Kobe beef, we will do everything that—
Kobe beef?
Do you know what I'm saying?
No one's ever called me Kobe beef before, but yeah.
Have you been primed? So they prime these boys, and as women in the entertainment industry, we truly are, and have been for so many years, these sort of afterthoughts. And it takes so many years to be able to make decisions that put yourself and hopefully your talents in leading roles, or in roles where, you know, you're actually respecting what it is that you do instead of just feeling lucky that you're even there. That's how they make you feel. You're lucky you're here.
I am lucky.
Yeah, you are. Well, yeah, I was talking to you specifically.
Thank you, Maggie. Just some, some background on the Hong Kong film industry. Like, there are many stories, and I'm not sure if it's like this here in Thailand, but as a female back then, as a female actress, if you wanted to make it, you would basically have to transact with the media boss. And I'll leave that up to you to
Very
interpret.
good way to put it.
Yeah, but did you, in your experience...
Did I do that?
I wasn't going to ask, but I mean, did you see any of that going on when you were in Hong Kong?
I saw all of it. I was there right in the beginning. I was there at a time when the stars now, who are larger than life, were in that position. And it broke my heart. It really broke my heart because I wasn't a person who was ever going to be susceptible to that. I was just they would always say about me, oh, that Maggie, she's so Western. Because I was very feisty and I would fight back. If someone made me uncomfortable, I would tell them. I had that fire.
Kick their ass. Basically.
I had a fire and I really didn't put up with a lot of shit. I just didn't do it. But I watched girls in positions where maybe it was their dream and maybe it was something that they had just always wanted and they were willing to do whatever it took to get there. And then some of them had mothers who were pushing them to get there in that way. And it really is devastating when you're a woman and you look into the eyes of another woman and you know what she wants, but the path is different than yours. And there's something very unspoken that happens between the two of you in those moments.
And have you experienced that kind of prejudice in Hollywood?
Which kind of prejudice?
Well, this idea that...
So many.
I know.
So many types.
I mean, it's a very delicate issue, but this sort of expectation that if you want to further your career, I mean, we know with Harvey Weinstein, that's what he was basically doing. Yeah. But if you wanted to further your career or get the role, you had to with a male producer.
Sure. Well, and here's the thing, you don't have to. It depends on your level of ambition, right? And so there are abuses that happen to women that are not, unfortunately have happened to them, not positions they've put themselves in. And then there are other times where we as women will put ourselves in positions to further our careers or further whatever it is that we're trying to accomplish. And that never has to be an option. But I suppose it is a very personal question about what the personal cost is for the level of fame or money that you want to acquire in your lifetime.
Have you ever been passed over a role because of you standing up for yourself?
1,000%.
Wow.
Absolutely. And it comes with the territory, I suppose. So you sort of I believe that we work in the entertainment industry, we're very privileged. So even when things like that happen, I hop and skip, I cartwheel over them because life is good and I have something to offer, so I will go on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. Now, the Me Too movement has really taken hold in Hollywood. Is it actually making a difference? And why has it not necessarily translated over to Asia? I mean, you do hear stories coming out like the Korean
the
gymnasts
and
but it doesn't seem to be as widespread as, say, in the US. And why is that, in your opinion?
Well, here's what's scary. If you're talking about a Western culture and you're talking about Western women now finding their voices, then you're talking about Asia being way behind. Way behind. Because Asian women, we're not typically taught to stand up for ourselves in that particular way, right? So I'm not saying that we're taught to be overtly subservient, but we are taught in our mannerisms to gloss over things, to accept things as they are, to hide them, or to suffer. And that suffering is part of our life. I know for me, as a first generation, my mother's an immigrant, a Vietnamese immigrant, that suffering is just part of the equation. You have to suffer in your life, and that equals, that you've, I don't know, what's the word, that you've earned your stripes,
right.
or whatever it is they say. And the truth is, it doesn't have to be the case. I think there was a time where that was the case, but I think that we are on the cusp of, certainly in Asia, women are fed up. I think women are fed up, period. But the fact
Who's fed up? Who's fed up? Anyone here fed up? I think we're fed up.
You know, income inequality has become a big thing in the U.S. Look, there's so many Asian women in the room, they're not even willing to really clap for it in a way. No, but do you see what I'm saying?
Are we fed up?
Yeah, I mean, if you, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Jesus.
you. Because the truth is, you know, feminism, as it were, people think that feminism is some big angry movement, and there's an element to feminism that's angry, and there's an element to feminism that's loud. But there's also a whole other side to what feminism means, what it means to stand up for ourselves, what it means to be paid equally, what it means to have an equal voice in a situation. I mean, even that very small thing, I mean, being a female on sets, you don't have a voice that the men do. You absolutely do not. And it's taken so many years for you to be recognized in the same space for the same concerns.
And you touched on a good point there, income disparity. Do you still get paid less than your male counterparts?
Absolutely.
Even now?
Even now, yes. It's you can call someone out, but it doesn't mean that they're going to change right away. So it is being a voice and being constant in that voice, right? So the idea is that we can't give up the things that we are fighting for, right? We can't, and especially with these media cycles and all of this stuff sort of becoming important in a moment and then going away. It cannot go away. I'm fighting for my nieces and nephews. I mean, I don't have children of my own, but I am fighting for those women that are coming up behind me, my family, the children that I love. These are the people that we're paving the way for. I mean, I don't go to bed going, God, I wish I had more money. That's my motivation. God, I wish I had as much money as my co-star. That's not why we're fighting. We're fighting because it's wrong. We're fighting because it's an injustice. And we're doing the same amount of work. We're doing as good a quality as work, and we deserve equal pay for that. Period. Yeah.
Wow. Mic drop. So, I think your point there about paving the way for the future and for the next generation segues very well into your conservation work. Because, you know, the thing that really touches me about your work, you've always been such an avid animal lover and conservationist.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about that before we talk about your social enterprise or your swimwear line.
Activism. I was just saying to someone earlier that they asked me like when I had got into activism, and I said, I've always been an activist. I just wasn't notable enough for anyone to care what I thought.
I
right?
I cared.
But you cared because we've known each other since we were 19. But you care and you care and you care and you work, and then you get to a certain place where people are listening. And that's when what you care about comes to the forefront. And that, I think, is what's exciting about working your way up. Or for me, it is. Because it's so funny because for me, every time I got a film or a project or whatever it was, in the back of my head, I would always say, oh, this is going to be so great for whatever it was that I was fighting for in that moment. You know, it was always about, oh, my voice is going to be amplified because of this project. Or I'm going to be able to then speak about this because of this opportunity. I'm getting there, and my voice is getting louder. And so, I don't know, maybe that's why it's work. I don't know, but
creating the platform, a bigger platform for
creating
the
a bigger platform, constantly creating that platform and never letting it die.
And you're a vegan as well, right?
Yes, I have been. Well, animal agriculture is one of the biggest polluters of our planet. I mean, there's no question about that. But I think that there are so many ways to do and make an impact. But I've been living this way for 20 years, and for me, I grew up on an island, and so I sort of understood the love for the natural world. And I can't really look at people who grew up in cities and go, why don't you understand why the ocean matters, or why trees matter, or why we need clean air and water and all of these things? Because it's something you have to bring to people. Not everybody is lucky enough to grow up and see the beauty of those things and want that preservation and really feel it in their hearts. So, but because I have that, I become a sounding board for those things. I've been an ocean activist for 20 years. I've been an animal rights activist and a human rights activist for 20 years. And so I hate injustice. For me, that's what keeps me up at night. And it really doesn't matter in what respect that's happening. If you have a voice, you know, Alice Waters, a novelist and poet who is wonderful. She said, activism is my rent for living on this planet.
Ooh. I like that.
And Alice Waters, thank you.
I want to write that down. Note to self.
Go Alice Waters. But I remember when I read that, I mean, I obviously am a big fan of her work, but I remember when I read that, I thought, oh my God, somebody really articulated how I feel every day in that one statement. We are here, we are privileged, we are healthy, we are able-bodied, we are intelligent. We have so much to give. And if we're not giving back every single day, and I'm not letting anyone in this room off the hook, it's a daily thing. Consumerism is a daily choice. How we treat people is a daily choice. What we do with our bodies, what we do with each other. This is all a daily, every time we eat, we're voting for the health of our planet. We have to understand, like, our decisions matter. Even if you're a person with low self-esteem who thinks what you do doesn't matter, everything you do matters. And really, that's been my messaging for a very long time. Yeah.
Why do people hate vegans so much?
Because they're judgmental.
Well, look, she's a vegan. She looks. Doesn't she look amazing?
Oh, thanks.
Vegan.
It's important not to judge people. It's important to meet them where they're at, and you will attract so many more, flies with honey if you really truly understand that everyone is where they are, and you have to be a living example. That's it.
So you've taken your activism a step further by actually creating a social enterprise. Would you call it that? Or would you?
Ooh, I love the word enterprise.
A positive enterprise, a business. It's a business,
Yes.
but has a very important function because her swim line, Keep Up, is it a swim line? Activewear.
Well, it's activewear.
Activewear.
Yeah, it's activewear.
Is all recycled plastic.
Yes.
Which is amazing. I think she deserves a round of applause just for that.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
So tell us about Keep Up and what's the vision for that?
So 10 years ago, I started researching sustainable fabrics in this space, and the technology just wasn't there yet. I wanted it to be there. It wasn't there. It's sort of, I always liken it to taking a meat eater to a vegetarian meal. If it's not the best vegetarian meal you could ever have, don't take them, because they'll never do it again, right? So it has to be right. It has to be the best. If you're gonna do it right. So at that time, even though the yarns were available, because the quality wasn't there, I wasn't gonna jump in yet. So 2 years ago, I started really looking at what the impact was of using post-consumer waste and turning it into a product of desire, a commodity that we used every day and something that we didn't, not that we couldn't live without, but that we didn't want to live without. And we sort of women now, we live in this, I mean, Asia is pretty incredible because women sort of dress up and they're a little more presentable. In the States, they're a lot more casual. So women are sort of wearing their yoga clothes to the office and then to the meeting and then to the gym and then back to the office. So it's become this sort of, they call it athleisure. And so I sort of wanted to tap into this thing that of health, number one, so that the message was to be active and to take a page out of that book, that health was sort of at the forefront of your daily life and your daily choices. And I found a company who would recycle plastics collected from the eastern seaboard of the United States, mill it in North Carolina, and then I was taking that yarn to California. And I found a mill and factories in California that paid living wages, where every worker is insured. I even walked the factory floors to make sure that the ventilation is proper and that it's clean and people are happy. And as a businesswoman and as a CEO, I cannot run a business where I don't know every single facet of that business, and I don't know exactly how people are being treated who are making my product and who are fulfilling my dream. Those people are fulfilling my dream. All of those workers who are cutting and sewing my clothing, who are milling those melted plastic bottles into yarn, they're fulfilling my dream. They're allowing me a message that has always been a dream of mine to be able to speak about. And so they need to be treated fairly, and they need to have everything that they need to have. And so our company is fully transparent from the ground up. Every single piece is 100% recycled, and our packaging, I'm so proud of our packaging. We have no hang tags, so you're not buying a product, pulling it, and throwing it away and creating more trash. Our packaging is 100% biodegradable, so it'll disappear in a landfill in about 12 months. So we don't have any waste from this company. We're using post-consumer waste. We are a carbon offset company. We are not even a carbon neutral company. We are a carbon negative company.
Wow.
Thank you.
Carbon negative. I didn't even know that was possible.
It is possible. We're offsetting. I mean, we are with our first production. We have saved thousands and thousands of tons of trash, and so that this to me is the future of business. If we are not creating sustainability around our businesses, I don't know what we're doing, because it is the future, because the consumers are demanding it now. They want to know where it's made, why it's made, who's making it, and whether it's all kosher. Everything's PC, they're happy.
I mean, I've been hosting a lot of conferences and I've met so many female entrepreneurs now. They're so good at tying in the social or the sustainable angle.
Because we
and
have
holistic
heart.
angle. You have
We're
heart,
women.
Yeah. So it's not about just the bottom P&L. Yeah, it's
even
net
when
positive.
we forget it, it's still there. So when you give us opportunity and we're leading, we will lead in a very different direction. And now that is why it is so important to empower female entrepreneurs, impact investment, all of those things. Hello, Kat.
My girlfriend. Little plug
and
there.
be able to support females who are looking at business from a very different standpoint and wanting to make a difference because of those businesses.
Now, you're doing a lot of different things right now, which is, you know what? Asians rock. We can do many different things.
We really can.
Yes.
We're multitaskers.
but which are you going to focus on acting? Are you going to focus on activism? I mean, we spoke with Jamila this morning. She was like, no more acting, just activism. Or are you going to focus on your business? Or are you going to do all three?
I admire her for that. I can't do that, because part of of being a brand or part of having a voice is being able to be visible in different parts. So not everyone listens to activists. Not everyone listens to actors. Not everyone listens to scientists. Not everyone listens to doctors. So I'm not going to go out and get a PhD and also be a doctor and a scientist and an actor. But what I'm saying is, even on the internet, when you're selling something to people, they need to be impressed upon at least 3 times by 3 different sources. It's really the same thing. So you kind of have to, you don't want to go away in one aspect and think that you can just come up in another, and that first aspect didn't actually get you there. I know that the entertainment business has created the groundswell around what I need to talk about, so I'm not going to discount it. It's incredibly important, and I appreciate it, and I have a lot of gratitude for it.
And what kind of roles are you looking for? Are you going to, because I mean, you became famous being the kick-ass Nikita. I mean, just to let you know how much of an effort this was, Maggie had back surgery last week.
Too many action movies.
She had a neck brace on last night.
I'm wearing a turtleneck because I have a ginormous bandage across my neck.
Yeah, so I mean, being here is amazing. But like, if you hadn't had back surgery, I'd ask you to do like a flying kick on me right now.
I'm so glad I had back surgery.
But so I mean, because you're doing all this activism, you're a social entrepreneur. Like, can you take these sort of kick-ass stereotype female roles, or are you demanding, hey, give me something with a bit more meat around it, or something not so stereotyped? Well,
my next film, I'm going to do an action film. My next film is going to be, it's going to have action in it, but it's a story-driven action film with Michael Keaton and Sam Jackson. So I'm the female lead.
Amazing.
It's not you have to sort of look at things and go, what's my value in this equation? And how do I come in and bring something that those men don't? And that's really sort of where I'm at in anything, it's just sort of, that is the way it is. So I don't want to stop being a strong female. When I tell you guys, like, the letters I get from people, I've gotten letters that would make you weep for days about people who have been physically handicapped or are in mental hospitals, or girls that have been raped or abused and had found strength in strong female role models. And I'm not just talking about action stars, but just women who are out there in the world getting it done. And you can't discount the impact that you can have on someone's life when you're when you really are empowering them to be strong. And although I think it's important to be educated, I think it's important to have intelligence, I think it's very important as females, and especially Asian females, to remember to be sensitive and be kind and be empathetic, because we forget that. Even though we're female and we're heart-led, we're hard. Females can be very hard. And I know that in my life I've had to learn that lesson to really soften, and like, I don't have to do that thing where I'm strong because I'm strong. You know, I can move my own sofa. That makes me happy. I'm physically very strong. But I'm also mentally very strong, and that matters to me more than anything. And so I want to be out there sort of touting all these sort of different areas of strength for people, because I think it matters. It matters for me. Linda Hamilton's back in a new Terminator. Did you see her in that Terminator? She is so incredible. Like, she was one of my heroes. You know, in the 90s, it was like her and Sigourney Weaver. Like, those were the only women who had muscles, and they were strong, and they were like kicking men's ass.
She's the main build. Like, Arnie looks small on the poster.
As he should be.
Yeah. Whoa.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, it's exciting, and it's also, you know, and she's an older woman who's still projecting this strength, and to me that's inspiring, and I think that, you know, that kind of comeback is huge.
You know, what's exciting about this gathering and similar gatherings I've been to in Asia is we feel now that we're coming into the Asian century. In terms of GDP, not only in terms of GDP, but in terms of influence on the world stage. Coming back to Thailand this time, or Bangkok, do you feel that, you know, things have changed since you left? Do you feel that Asia is now ready to lead the world in terms both of cultural influence as well as economic development and sustainable development?
You know, I think that Asians, interestingly enough, I mean, you know, GDP and all of that aside, influentially have led the world in many aspects for a very long time. But like, as Asians, we lead in that very quiet way. Which is beautiful, but I think finding our voice and finding our footing in a different way is how we're going to lead in this sort of next cycle. And that is what's exciting.
Great, thank you. We're coming to the end of our chat. You got to catch a plane. Is there one nugget of advice you can give to all the ladies here and the men?
One nugget.
One nugget, little vegan nugget. Like, it's going to taste
like
as good as the real thing.
Oh yeah, it tastes just like the real thing.
Yeah. And you know, for Asian entrepreneurs or Asian content creators or actors who want to make it on the world stage, because you've done it. How do we pass that on to this crowd?
This is probably not going to mean anything for the men in the room, which is fine, because there's more women here, right? I mean, I can't see anyone. It's like, it's so smoky.
It's good to be the minority. It feels good.
You know, coming to a summit that is female-centric and is really about that female empowerment, I think one thing is women, and if I'm going to give any nugget that tastes like the real thing, I will tell you that supporting one another is the most important thing you can do as females, because it's very easy to compete with one another, be jealous of one another, have very little understanding for each other's suffering. And the truth is, we all have that. There's no one you know, there's no one you're seeing on Instagram or Facebook whose life is better than yours. It's not. There's no one you need to envy. There's no one you need to emulate, unless it's someone who's projecting a strength or a leadership, and that's it. So let's really have each other's backs in a real way as women, and that is how we lead.
I told you it was going to be impactful. There you have your 30 minutes with Maggie Q.
Thank you,
Thank
Sean.
you so much, Maggie.
Thank you so much for having me.
And
Thank you.
have a safe trip back.
I will.
And also, the wildfires in LA. I hope your house is okay, and
I
all
do
your
too.
dogs. And I hope it's all there when you get back. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Don't
We
look
hope
a
to
bit
have
like
you
this.
soon. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Maggie.
Thank you.